The ultimatum. 30 days. That's what the Solarian Empire gave Earth to surrender. The message arrived via a small probe that bypassed Earth's defense grid, landing directly in the middle of the United Nations Plaza in New York. William Clark paced the length of the Emergency Council chamber, his face grim as holographic displays showed the Solarian battle group taking position near Jupiter. As Defense Secretary, he had spent years preparing for threats, but nothing like this. They have over 300 vessels, he said, pointing to the tactical display. Most bigger than anything we've built. Their technology is at least a century beyond ours. President Ben Howard rubbed his temples. And their demands. Complete surrender. Earth and all colonies become mining outposts. Most humans relocated to labor planets. Clark's voice was tight with anger. They're classifying us as a level 3 species, intelligent enough to be useful but not advanced enough for equal status. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, after centuries of development, reduced to servants of an alien empire. What about their weaknesses? Asked General Olivia Pearson, leaning forward. Everyone has them. A woman stood up from the science delegation. Dr. Olivia Pearson, Xenobiology. We've been analyzing the limited data from our scans. She activated a display showing Solarian biological readings. Their species evolved in environments with minimal radiation. Their ships have powerful shields, but the Solarians themselves. They're extremely sensitive to certain radioactive isotopes we consider relatively harmless. Clark nodded. And their ships. Their weapons are powerful, but their systems rely heavily on crystalline computing arrays, said Chief Engineer Paul Wilson. Based on the energy signatures, they're vulnerable to precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses. President Howard looked around the table. Can we exploit these weaknesses? We've already started, Clark confirmed. Every nation, every colony is contributing resources. The lunar manufacturing facilities are running at full capacity. Mercury's antimatter plants have tripled production. General Summers, head of Earth Defense Forces, stepped forward. We're deploying the Sentinel network, the orbital defense platforms we've been secretly building for the past decade. And the Neptune shipyards have accelerated completion of our new destroyer-class vessels. What about civilians? Asked the European Union representative. Full evacuation protocols for vulnerable areas, Clark answered. Underground shelters are being stocked. Mars and Europa colonies are hardening their habitats. We're not going down without a fight. Dr. Pearson cleared her throat. There's something else. Their communication intercepts suggest they've never encountered serious resistance. They believe this will be a simple operation. A bitter smile crossed Clark's face. Then they're in for a surprise. The next 3 weeks saw Earth transformed. Old rivals became allies against the common threat. Military technology previously kept secret was shared across nations. Civilian industries converted to produce weapons and defensive systems. In orbit, massive platforms took shape, the Sentinel network designed to create an impenetrable shield around Earth. Squadrons of fighters practiced new tactics based on the Solarians' observed movements. Dr. Pearson worked tirelessly with her team, developing targeted biological countermeasures. It's not about matching their firepower, she explained during a briefing. It's about exploiting what they never considered a threat. 7 days before the deadline, Admiral Miller met with Earth's Unified Command. The plan was risky, depending more on human ingenuity than raw power. The Solarians expect us to either surrender or mount a conventional defense, she explained. They don't understand human creativity or our willingness to sacrifice. As the deadline approached, Earth's message back to the Solarian fleet was brief. We decline your offer. We suggest you reconsider yours. The Solarian commander's response was equally short. Then you have chosen extinction. Earth was ready. The trap was set. The ultimatum. 30 days. That's what the Solarian Empire gave Earth to surrender. The message arrived via a small probe that bypassed Earth's defense grid, landing directly in the middle of the United Nations Plaza in New York. William Clark paced the length of the Emergency Council chamber, his face grim as holographic displays showed the Solarian battle group taking position near Jupiter. As Defense Secretary, he had spent years preparing for threats, but nothing like this. They have over 300 vessels, he said, pointing to the tactical display. Most bigger than anything we've built. Their technology is at least a century beyond ours. President Ben Howard rubbed his temples. And their demands: complete surrender. Earth and all colonies become mining outposts. Most humans relocated to labor planets. Clark's voice was tight with anger. They're classifying us as a level 3 species, intelligent enough to be useful but not advanced enough for equal status. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, after centuries of development, reduced to servants of an alien empire. What about their weaknesses? Asked General Olivia Pearson, leaning forward. Everyone has them. A woman stood up from the science delegation. Dr. Olivia Pearson, Xenobiology. We've been analyzing the limited data from our scans. She activated a display showing Solarian biological readings. Their species evolved in environments with minimal radiation. Their ships have powerful shields, but the Solarians themselves, they're extremely sensitive to certain radioactive isotopes we consider relatively harmless. Clark nodded. And their ships. Their weapons are powerful, but their systems rely heavily on crystalline computing arrays, said Chief Engineer Paul Wilson. Based on the energy signatures, they're vulnerable to precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses. President Howard looked around the table. Can we exploit these weaknesses? We've already started, Clark confirmed. Every nation, every colony is contributing resources. The lunar manufacturing facilities are running at full capacity. Mercury's antimatter plants have tripled production. General Summers, head of Earth Defense Forces, stepped forward. We're deploying the Sentinel network, the orbital defense platforms we've been secretly building for the past decade. And the Neptune shipyards have accelerated completion of our new destroyer-class vessels. What about civilians? Asked the European Union representative. Full evacuation protocols for vulnerable areas, Clark answered. Underground shelters are being stocked. Mars and Europa colonies are hardening their habitats. We're not going down without a fight. Dr. Pearson cleared her throat. There's something else. Their communication intercepts suggest they've never encountered serious resistance. They believe this will be a simple operation. A bitter smile crossed Clark's face. Then they're in for a surprise. The next 3 weeks saw Earth transformed. Old rivals became allies against the common threat. Military technology previously kept secret was shared across nations. Civilian industries converted to produce weapons and defensive systems. In orbit, massive platforms took shape, the Sentinel network designed to create an impenetrable shield around Earth. Squadrons of fighters practiced new tactics based on the Solarians' observed movements. Dr. Pearson worked tirelessly with her team, developing targeted biological countermeasures. It's not about matching their firepower, she explained during a briefing. It's about exploiting what they never considered a threat. 7 days before the deadline, Admiral Miller met with Earth's Unified Command. The plan was risky, depending more on human ingenuity than raw power. The Solarians expect us to either surrender or mount a conventional defense, she explained. They don't understand human creativity or our willingness to sacrifice. As the deadline approached, Earth's message back to the Solarian fleet was brief. We decline your offer. We suggest you reconsider yours. The Solarian commander's response was equally short. Then you have chosen extinction. Earth was ready. The trap was set. The opening salvo. The Solarian battle cruiser Dominion cut through space toward Mars colony, its crystalline hull gleaming under the distant sun. At nearly 5 miles long, it dwarfed the largest human vessels. Commander Vexnar stood on his command platform, 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the small human ships attempting to form a defensive position. Pathetic, He commented to his second. They send 6 small vessels against us. Begin recording for the Imperial Archives. This will be an instructive demonstration. On the bridge of the EDF Valiant, Captain Susan Garcia watched the massive alien ship approach. Her crew worked with quiet efficiency, each person knowing their role in what would appear to outsiders as a desperate last stand. Status of Operation Fisherman, she asked her tactical officer. All units in position, Captain. The net is ready. Garcia nodded. Send the distress call. The communications officer activated an open channel, his voice deliberately panicked. This is Mars Defense. We are outmatched. Requesting immediate reinforcements from Earth. We cannot hold against this vessel. The Solarian commander received the translation and made a sound of satisfaction. They realized their situation. Weapons. Prepare to fire on the human vessels. Low power. I want some survivors to witness what happens to Mars. What Vexenar didn't notice was the pattern of the human ships. They weren't positioned for defense or attack, but in a precise hexagonal formation. The target has entered the gravity well, reported Garcia's science officer. All parameters match calculations. Garcia's voice was calm. Activate the gravitational lenses. Across the formation, each Earth ship activated a hidden system. Years earlier, Earth scientists had discovered how to manipulate gravity fields in small, controlled areas. The military application had been kept secret, waiting for this moment. 6 focused gravity fields suddenly converged on a single point, directly in the path of the Solarian cruiser. The space around the alien vessel warped visibly. On the Dominion, alarms blared. Commander, our drive field is collapsing, shouted an officer. Hull integrity compromised in sections 3 through 7. Vexenar staggered as his ship shuddered. Impossible. Their technology is primitive. Bring weapons online. But the Dominion was caught in a trap it had no defense against. The overlapping gravity fields created crushing pressure on specific parts of the hull, while leaving others in near-zero gravity. The stress tore at the crystalline structure, creating fractures that spread like cracks on ice. Now, ordered Garcia. From hidden positions around Mars' orbit, 12 small fighters appeared, each carrying a single missile. They streaked toward the struggling alien ship, targeting the newly formed weaknesses in its hull. The precise strikes detonated not with explosive force, but with electromagnetic pulses calibrated to the exact frequency of Solarian crystalline computing systems. Aboard the Dominion, control panels shattered. Navigation failed. Weapon systems went dark. Emergency lights flickered as the mighty vessel became a drifting hulk. Garcia opened a channel to the crippled ship. Solarian vessel, this is Captain Susan Garcia of Earth Defense Forces. Your ship is disabled. You will be boarded and your crew taken into custody. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. For several moments, only static answered her. Then a strained voice replied, This is impossible. You are level 3. You cannot defeat Imperial technology. Your classification system needs updating, Garcia replied coolly. 3 hours later, General Richard Summers stood before the Solarian commander in the detention center established on Phobos, Mars' largest moon. The alien's scales had dulled, his posture defeated. You should know, Summers said, what happened today was a demonstration. A single cruiser against a small fraction of our capabilities. He leaned closer to the alien. I'm authorized to send a message to your fleet. Withdraw now. Return to your empire. Tell them that humanity doesn't want war, but if forced, we will fight in ways you cannot predict or counter. The Solarian looked up with dawning comprehension. You planned this. You wanted us to send one ship. Summers nodded. We wanted to give you a chance to learn without losing your entire fleet. What happens next is your choice. Escalation. Emperor Vostoric raged through the Imperial command chamber, his scales flaring crimson with fury. The holographic display showed the crippled Dominion being towed by tiny human vessels. Impossible. He hissed, striking the subordinate who cowered nearby. No Level 3 species has ever defeated Imperial technology. High Admiral Zeknar bowed low, keeping his eyes down. The humans used unknown gravitational manipulation, Emperor. They targeted weaknesses we didn't know existed. Then we will crush them with overwhelming force, Vostoric declared. Deploy the 7th Battle Fleet. All of it. Across the solar system, sensors detected the arrival of over 200 Solarian warships. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, a wall of destruction stretching millions of miles. Admiral Kate Miller stood in Earth's central command center buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, officers monitored the incoming fleet. They took the bait, she said quietly. On the main screen, the Solarian vessels moved toward the inner planets in a standard formation used by the Empire for millennia. They had conquered hundreds of worlds using these same tactics. Lieutenant Commander Alan Foster approached with a tablet. His eyes were red from sleepless nights spent analyzing Solarian communications. Admiral, we've cracked their faster-than-light communication protocol. It uses quantum entanglement, but with a predictable pattern. We can disrupt it with targeted interference. Miller nodded. How long will it take to implement? The system is ready now. We've been working on it since the Dominion was captured. Excellent. Begin disruption across all Solarian bands. Throughout the enemy fleet, communication systems suddenly went silent. Ship commanders could no longer coordinate with each other or receive orders from their flagship. On Earth's moon, General Summers gave the order. Activate Sentinel Network. Hundreds of previously hidden platforms around Earth, Mars, and throughout the asteroid belt powered up. They didn't fire weapons. They launched clouds of specially engineered nanites that attached to Solarian hulls, seeking out sensor arrays and weapon ports. The Solarian advance faltered as ship after ship reported systems failures. Their fleet, designed to operate as a single coordinated unit, began to fragment into isolated vessels. Phase 2, ordered Miller. From Jupiter's moons, Earth's attack fleet launched. Unlike the massive Solarian warships, Earth's vessels were small, fast, and nearly impossible to detect. They used the disruption to approach the enemy fleet from multiple vectors. Captain Sam Dixon led the first strike team from his ship, the EDF Ranger. Remember the plan, he told his squadron. Hit and run. Don't engage longer than 30 seconds. Target their drive systems and withdraw. The human ships struck like wolves attacking a herd, appearing suddenly from stealth, firing precisely at vulnerable points identified by Dr. Pearson's team, then vanishing before the Solarians could respond effectively. The Solarian commander, cut off from most of his fleet, watched in growing horror as ship after ship reported critical damage from enemies they couldn't even track. This defies all combat doctrine, he muttered. They should be forming defensive positions, not whatever this is. Lieutenant Megan Roberts led a special ops team in a stealth craft, slipping between massive Solarian vessels. Boarding team ready, she reported as they attached to a command ship's hull. Beginning entry protocol. Within hours, humans had infiltrated 3 key enemy vessels, collecting critical intelligence and planting devices that would continue disrupting Solarian communications. After 2 days of continuous harassment, the Solarian fleet had lost 27 major warships without landing a single effective counterattack. Their formation was in disarray, their command structure compromised. Admiral Miller sent a message to the Solarian flagship. Your fleet is being systematically disabled. Your communication systems are compromised. We can continue this until none of your ships remain functional, or you can retreat now. The Solarian commander stared at the message, his worldview crumbling. The mighty empire, never defeated in thousands of years, was being taken apart by a species they had dismissed as barely worth notice. His response was brief. This is not over. The remnants of the 7th Fleet began a disorganized withdrawal, leaving their damaged ships behind. The counteroffensive. In a secret facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Olivia Pearson stood before a strange device. It contained components salvaged from captured Solarian vessels, integrated with Earth's most advanced technology. The machine hummed with energy, creating a distortion that made the air shimmer. "Is it ready?" Admiral Miller asked as she entered the lab. Pearson nodded. "The reverse-engineered FTL drive works. We've successfully tested it at short range, just to Mars and back. It's ready for deep deployment." Miller studied the device. 6 months ago, humans had never encountered aliens. Now they were preparing to take the fight beyond their solar system. "And the navigation system?" she asked. "That's where Colonel Diaz comes in," Pearson said, gesturing to a woman in combat gear who stood nearby. Maria Diaz was the commander of Earth's Special Operations Group, an elite force of soldiers trained for the impossible. Her team had spent weeks studying Solarian language and technology. "My team is prepared, Admiral," Diaz said. "We've memorized Solarian ship layouts and command protocols. The data from our infiltration of their vessels gave us everything we need." Miller nodded. "This mission goes beyond anything we've attempted. You'll be the first humans to travel to another star system." "We understand the risks," Diaz replied. "But the intelligence we gathered shows the Empire is preparing a much larger force. We need to strike first." 3 days later, Earth's first interstellar vessel, disguised as a Solarian scout ship, activated its FTL drive. The stars blurred as it jumped toward the nearest Solarian stronghold. Aboard the ship, Diaz briefed her 12-person team. "Our target is the Solarian command station orbiting Proxima Centauri. It coordinates all military operations in this sector." She displayed a holographic map. "We'll dock as a returning patrol vessel. Once inside, we split into 3 teams. Team 1 secures the communication hub. Team 2 downloads their strategic database. Team 3 plants the disruption devices." The journey took just hours instead of the years it would have required with conventional technology. When they arrived, the massive Solarian station loomed ahead, surrounded by warships. "Transmitting stolen authorization codes," said Lieutenant Greg Parker, their communications specialist. The station responded with docking instructions. No alarm sounded. Their disguise was working. Once docked, Diaz's team moved through the station with practiced efficiency. They wore modified Solarian armor, their faces hidden behind alien-styled helmets. The few Solarians they encountered barely glanced at them. In the central database, Sergeant Lisa Jordan worked quickly, bypassing security systems using techniques developed by Earth's best hackers. "I'm in," she whispered over their secure channel. "Downloading fleet movements, base locations, supply routes. Everything." Meanwhile, Diaz led her team to the command center. Unlike human facilities, Solarian command posts were lightly guarded. The Empire had grown complacent after centuries without serious opposition. "Control room secured," Diaz reported after a brief, silent takedown of the 2 guards. "Beginning Phase 2. For the next hour, they installed devices designed by Dr. Pearson, quantum computers that would slowly corrupt Solarian navigation systems throughout the sector. Ships would find themselves jumping to wrong locations. Defense systems would target phantom enemies. When an alarm finally sounded, Diaz's team was already heading back to their ship. "We've got what we came for," she ordered. "Fall back to extraction point." They fought their way through suddenly alert Solarian forces, using weapons specifically designed to overcome alien defenses. 3 team members were injured, but all made it back to their vessel. As they jumped away, the station behind them descended into chaos. The first human strike deep in enemy territory was complete. Back on Earth, Admiral Miller reviewed the stolen data with Earth's unified command. What they found was staggering. Maps of the entire Empire, locations of key production facilities, and details of other species conquered and enslaved. "We now have targets," Miller said, highlighting various locations. "And more importantly, we know where to find allies." For the first time since the conflict began, Humans were no longer just defending. They were taking the fight to the Empire. The Alliance. Major Daniel Wright stepped carefully through the ruins of what had once been a magnificent city. Strange architecture surrounded him, buildings that curved and spiraled in ways no human structure would. His team followed close behind, weapons ready as they moved through the silent streets of the alien world. "Life signs ahead," whispered Sergeant Lily Chen, checking her scanner. Multiple signatures, not Solarian. They had traveled 3 weeks to reach this planet, following coordinates found in the stolen Solarian database. According to those records, this world, called Nebaratha by its natives, had resisted Solarian rule for decades before finally being conquered. Wright raised his fist, signaling the team to stop. Ahead, something moved in the shadows of a collapsed building. "We're not here to hurt you," he called out, his words translated by the device at his throat. "We're enemies of the Solarian Empire." For several long moments, nothing happened. Then a tall, slender figure emerged cautiously from the ruins. The alien had blue-tinted skin and 4 arms, each ending in delicate 6-fingered hands. Its large eyes studied the humans warily. "You are new species," it said through its own translator. "Why come here?" "Solarians kill all who help us." "We're humans," Wright explained. "We're fighting the Empire. We came looking for allies." The alien made a sound like soft bells. "Allies. We are slaves now. Once we were Niburians, great builders and scientists. Now we mine resources for Empire until we die." Wright gestured to the packs his team carried. "We brought something that might change that. Can you take us to your leaders?" The alien hesitated, then nodded. "Follow. Quickly. Patrols come soon." They were led through underground tunnels to a hidden settlement. Hundreds of Niburians lived in these concealed chambers, the last free members of their species. Their leader, an elderly Niburian named Kelvash, listened intently as Wright explained Earth's resistance. "You defeated their ships?" Kelvash asked, disbelief evident in his voice. "This has not happened in living memory." "We did," Wright confirmed, "and we've developed something that might help your people." He nodded to Dr. Laura Bennett, who opened her case. Bennett had spent months studying the neural control devices that Solarians used on subjugated species. The small device she displayed was the result. "The Empire controls your people with implanted transmitters," she explained. "This emitter disrupts their signal without alerting the Solarians. It will free your people from direct control." Kelvash's eyes widened. "You offer freedom. We offer a chance to fight back," Wright corrected. "Earth can't defeat the Empire alone. But together, with other worlds they've conquered, we might stand a chance." 3 days later, the first Niburian work camp rebelled. The slaves, suddenly free from neural control, overwhelmed their surprised Solarian overseers. Within a week, the entire planet was in open revolt. Similar scenes played out across a dozen worlds as human teams delivered Bennett's technology to other enslaved species. The Pravians, insectoid engineers whose world had fallen 2 centuries earlier. The massive Krell, whose strength made them prized laborers. The Centauri, a species of brilliant mathematicians forced to calculate hyperspace routes for Imperial ships. On each world, the humans brought not just technology, but something the conquered peoples had lost: hope. 6 months after first contact, Admiral Miller stood before representatives of 18 different species aboard Earth's new space station. Some appeared via hologram, others had traveled in person to this historic meeting. "The Solarian Empire has ruled through fear and division," Miller told the gathering. "They kept each conquered world isolated, never allowing us to know about each other. That ends today." The alliance was formalized in a simple ceremony. Each species pledged ships, technology, or fighters to the common cause. Earth provided strategy and leadership. Humans' talent for warfare, so recently discovered, now became their greatest contribution. As the representatives departed to spread the word among their people, Dr. Bennett joined Miller at the viewing window overlooking Earth. When the Solarians came, Bennett said quietly. "We thought it was the worst day in human history, but maybe it was the best. We've united not just our own world, but now dozens of others." Miller nodded. The Empire created its own destruction. They never understood what happens when you corner a species that refuses to surrender. Across the galaxy, the rebellion spread like wildfire. The Solarians, for the first time in their long history of conquest, found themselves fighting on multiple fronts against enemies who no longer feared them. The Reckoning. The imperial palace of Solaria gleamed under the light of 3 suns, its crystalline spires reaching toward the sky like frozen flames. For 10,000 years, it had stood as the unquestioned center of power in the galaxy. No enemy had ever threatened this world. No opposing force had ever been seen in this system. Until today. Admiral Kate Miller stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiance, Earth's flagship, and the most powerful vessel humans had ever built. Around it floated ships from 26 formerly enslaved species, united under the Alliance banner. The fleet had fought its way across half the galaxy to reach this moment. "Status report," Miller ordered, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. "Solarian Home Defense Fleet is moving to intercept," reported Captain John Hayes, now her second in command. "Approximately 300 vessels. Their planetary shield is at full power." Miller nodded. After 2 years of war, this was the final battle. Everything they had learned, every advantage they had gained, would be tested here. "Open a channel to Emperor Vos Torek," she ordered. The Emperor's face appeared on screen, his scales darkened with rage. "You dare bring your mongrel fleet to the sacred homeworld. Your species will be erased from history for this insult." "We're not here to trade threats, Emperor," Miller replied evenly. "We're here to end this war. Surrender your authority. Grant independence to all conquered worlds. The killing can stop today." Vos Torek made a harsh sound that the translator rendered as laughter. "Surrender? To primitives and slaves? I would sooner destroy my own world." Miller's expression didn't change. "That won't be necessary. We'll do it for you." She signaled to end the transmission. "Deploy the Harbinger," she ordered. From the hold of the Defiance emerged a small, unassuming vessel. It accelerated toward Solaria, easily evading the defensive fire from Imperial ships. The device it carried was the culmination of human ingenuity combined with technology from a dozen worlds. "What is that tiny ship?" demanded Vos Torek, as his generals reported the approaching vessel. No one had an answer. Nothing in Imperial records matched its signature. The Harbinger penetrated the planetary shield using phase shift technology developed by the freed Centauri. Once through, it positioned itself in low orbit and activated. There was no explosion, no visible weapon fired. Instead, a wave of energy pulsed outward, washing over the planet's surface. Where it passed, all Solarian technology simply stopped. Shields failed. Weapons went dead. The mighty defense systems that had protected the homeworld for millennia shut down all at once. On the planet's surface, panic spread through the Imperial city. For the first time in living memory, Solarians felt something they had inflicted on countless others: helplessness. "The Harbinger worked perfectly," reported Dr. Pearson from her station. "Their technology will remain disabled for at least 72 hours. Miller opened another channel to the Emperor. "As you can see, we could end your civilization right now. Your people are defenseless." Vos Torek's composure had cracked, his scales pale with shock. "How is this possible? What have you done?" "We've proven our point," Miller answered. "Humans warned you to run. You chose not to listen. Now you face a simple choice: accept our terms or watch your world burn." For several long moments, the Emperor was silent. 10,000 years of imperial history weighed against the survival of his species. What are your terms?" he finally asked, his voice barely audible. The peace conference lasted 5 days. Representatives from all formerly enslaved worlds attended, each presenting evidence of Solarian atrocities against their people. The Empire, reduced to a single world, accepted complete disarmament and severe restrictions on future development. 1 month later, Admiral Miller stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, representatives of all free worlds gathered in what had once been the Imperial Palace. "The war is over," she told the assembled delegates. "But our work is just beginning. We must build something better than what came before. Not an empire, but a true alliance of equals." As the council began its first session, Miller stepped outside onto a balcony overlooking the city. General Richard Summers joined her there. "Do you think they'll remember?" he asked quietly. "What started all this?" Miller watched as ships from dozens of worlds moved peacefully through Salarian skies, a sight unimaginable just years before. "They'll remember," she said. "The lesson wasn't just for the Salarians, it was for everyone. When humans tell you to run, you run."